Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to continue on with the methodology we learned in the last lesson and apply it to this setting. We're going to talk about a couple other things we haven't mentioned about the curves, about the S-curve, contrast, luminosity mode, things of that sort. So let's go ahead. So what we're going to do is we're going to press Alt, and we're going to click in that we've added a curves adjustment layer. We're going to press Alt, and we're going to drag here and see what the first dark point is. So it looks like it's hanging over here, right? Way over here. Let me use my info panel and see what's going on. Yeah, let me look, see if I can get some better shadow detail. Maybe right about there. Press Shift, click, there's my shadow. Now let's look for my highlights. So I'm going to press Alt, go back to this graph here, move it. Okay, I can see that it looks like it's right about this area. Okay, so I'm going to click here. So I got my shadow and highlights. Let's begin. We can look at this image and analyze it here, so let me reset it. Let's see what's going on. Now what I love about this image, to correct it, is that what color is the wall? Is it brown? Is it red? Is it purple? I don't know. Is this really a white floor, or is it gray? Is this a really brown or yellow? Is this black? I have no idea. So sometimes when you're diagnosing an image, you can use your highlight and shadow points to get you in the ballpark and see if you're right. And then let's look at it. So we have our point 2 here, which is here, right? And we can see that we have more red than green again, and the green is below way more than the blue. And when you go over to our one over here, we can see that the same thing applies over here. We can look at our histogram. We can see we have some. When you see this going against the graph here, that means that's blown out on the red channel on the highlight. We can see that we don't have that much detail on the shadows, and the green we can see the same thing, and we can see there's more red than green, green more than blue. So we can see what we're seeing is the same thing. So let me close these. Let me move this over, okay? And let's do it. So let me select my eyedropper tool. And let me go over, move this over. I knew I was going to have to move it. There we go. And then select the first point, which is a shadow, and go Control Shift click. And then that'll place a point on the curves. So if I press Alt 3, you'll see the red. And as you can see, it's all the way over here, all the way over there. So we're going to bring that point to 13. No, 15 is okay. Okay, 15 is fine. And then we're going to go Alt 3, Alt 4. I always can mess that up sometimes. And we're going to move that point up. As you can see here, we're moving the point up to get it in the same ballpark. And then Alt 5, we're going to move this up also. And why do we do that? Well, if this says this is the darkest point of the image, and it's the shadow, well, I want some detail in the shadow. So this is why we're increasing it to that 13 and 242 that we saw in the curves auto options. So this way we get detail when we print it out. Now, let's go over to our other point. I always like to click on the RGB. It's just me. And then I'm going to click on the Control Shift click with the eyedropper tool on number 2. Then go to Alt 3. And I see here that I have 232. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to go to Alt 4. And I'm going to raise my green to 232. Oops. Hello. And then go Alt 5. And you can see I've got to raise this a lot. Let's see what happens here. Your eyes can automatically adjust to many things automatically without you knowing. So you may not see things. So sometimes using numbers is great to correct a photo because it can be more accurate. So as we can see here, according to our curves, this is what it should be. So we click over to RGB. I'm going to add another curves layer. Okay, and then I'm just going to apply contrast and see what that will do. So I can come over here to my default settings, pull this down, and I got some options. I can do a cross negative. Ooh, that's kind of cool looking, huh? A little Star Trek seat. Cross process, darker. As you can see here, what it's doing to the graph, it's darkening the image. So it means it's pulling it down. This is increased contrast. Ooh. And there's something else I want to tell you about curves. You'll see an S curve. S curve, what this means is I'm increasing contrast while maintaining my shadow and my highlights. So it's increasing contrast within this area. Alright? Unless I don't like the increased contrast. Maybe this one, lighter? No. Linear contrast, that's a very little bit of contrast. Okay, that's nice. And there's a medium contrast. I like that. And usually when you're messing with contrast, you can create a color shift. So sometimes it's better to change this to luminosity. But then you can see that it looks a little plainish. So probably another thing I'm going to introduce you to is I would go over here to the vibrance. And remember, vibrance increases saturation in the areas that need it and not the areas that are overly saturated. So then I would just increase this slowly but surely to increase color back in here. And this is what I have. Okay, so let me double click on adjustments. I have two curves layer and a vibrance according to my points. Now, what if the points are wrong? So maybe this isn't the shadow. Maybe this isn't the highlight. This is the other thing you have to worry about when correcting photos. So that means you're going to have to move these to a different location and adjust the points or redo it, and or maybe this wasn't the method to use in the first place. So let's use a different method in the next lesson.